All right, ladies and gentlemen, with distinct honor, pleasure, happiness, what a way to start a Saturday and a weekend. We've got Andy Timmons and Josh Smith. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
You saw us wake up, and we saw us wake up there. We're like, oh, yeah, we're on. Okay.
We're on.
Well, good morning, guys. Well, it's very early for y'all. It's 11 for me, so I've had a little chance to get going here.
Yeah. No, it's
but good to see
here.
both of you, man. Don't get to hang nearly enough with both of you guys.
Likewise.
So good to hang virtually here, man.
And Andy, we're going to be hanging out at the Paul Gilbert Great Guitar Escape soon, correct?
That is very soon. That's in Pomona at the end of July. I forget the starting date, maybe the 28th, something like that. Yeah, 4 days of just, these camps are so freaking amazing. Selfishly for me, because I get to hang out with some of my favorite players who've also turned out to be, lifelong friends, from Paul Gilbert to Greg Koch and Greg Howe. Help me, Gretchen Min. Who else is going to be there? Mike Keneally, Jared James Nichols, I think. Nice. But the thing about it is that, it kind of puts me back when I was in college in Miami for a while, because I was a jazz guitar major, and you're around all these like-minded people that have this passion for, obviously for us it's guitar, but music in general, specifically guitar. And you geek out for 4 days, and you're inspired because you're hearing some of the greatest players, but then on the students coming from all around, of all different playing levels, some beginners, some, deserve to be on the stage, as one of the teachers, you know what I mean? So there's just this great chemistry of like-minded folks just having a great time. And Doug, that's where you and I have gotten to hang at most length of any of our hangs together. And you're such a great energy at these camps, because you bring such a wide knowledge and great playing, but it's your energy, man. It's your dedicated, genuine spirit about, what you do and what you love. And it's real infectious. So I look forward to getting me some more of that. So it just puts fuel in your tank, man. You go away after these 4 days and go, okay, man, I got plenty of work to work on. And you're just filled with that joy that you get from all these great folks. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and Josh, don't you have a similar thing coming up, right?
I actually have a camp this week in San Diego.
Oh, there you go.
Monday and Tuesday. I think it's called National Guitar something. But yeah,
trademark that, the National Guitar something. With Josh.
I always get, because there's so many of them, and the names are all so similar. The international this and the national
and the
guitar and guitar. But yeah, I'm doing one in San Diego Monday and Tuesday.
That's all. Who's gonna be there with you?
I know Mark Lettieri is going to be there. Maybe Guthrie Trapp, David Grissom. I don't know. A lot of people. Oh
man, yeah. There's some notable, iconic, incredible players. I do one more. I'm actually headed over to the UK on Tuesday. I'm doing a few gigs with the Pedal Show guys. Daniel and Mick. So two of my other favorite humans on the planet. So we had a bunch of shows. Yeah. I remember seeing that you guys were hanging. But we had a bunch of gigs booked in 2020, And of course, nobody went anywhere for the last few years. So they finally rebooked a few things. And I do a camp right after that in Italy with Frank Gambale and Tom Quayle and Marco Sfoli. So I'm going to get all the inspiration. I took a lesson with Gambale. I went to his house. This goes back. This is only like 5 or 6 years ago. I was just, man, I need to learn some of this stuff.
Really? Recently?
Yeah. It would have been
so
like,
cool.
Because he and I, he was an Ibanez guy originally back in the 90s, and we hung for a bit, just we might have jammed a couple of times at like an impromptu thing at the booth at NAMM. But then, God, when was the next time we hung out? He came to see me with Simon one night. I think it was at Cafe Cordial of all places.
I was probably there.
Yeah. And so we just kind of, just got on really well. And so then a couple of camps here and there. But anyway, so I said, man, next time I'm in town, man, I'd love to come over and just hang. And it's great. What can I show you? And I recorded these lessons, and I thought this is my chance. I'm really going to get into it. Just the economy picking thing for me just doesn't stick. I try and try and try, but I'm so rooted in a certain kind of connection with the string. Long story short, he was the sweetest guy, and my payment, I had to take him out for Thai food. So that was a good day, hanging with Frank, and he has a lovely wife and family. And up there in Pasadena, we went to the botanical gardens. That was gorgeous. Very fun memory.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. So anyway, these camps are great because you can reconnect with some of these amazing
Did he teach you the lick that slurped LA?
The lick, I thought it was New York. The lick that slurped.
I can't remember.
We rewound that videotape like dozens of times. We were howling because the lick that slurped. The way he says slurp, New York. Yeah. If you haven't seen some of his videos, man, jaw dropping. Incredible playing, but there's the one with like cheerleaders and stuff. There was some stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Frank. We all have our paths. You can type in danger, and you got plenty of stuff you can giggle at me about. But that was some pretty funny stuff. But he just man, when he hit the scene, it was just so new and fresh, and just his approach to it. And as I always say, he uses his powers for good. There's music happening. There's great phrasing instead of just mindless, the ability to do that. You can do it all day. Anyway, love you, Frank, and I look forward to seeing you as well.
Andy, were you at the NAMM show the year that Satriani, Gambale played kind of the Saturday night of the show, and they gave out those little cassettes with little like Godzilla on the cover of that?
Oh no, I don't remember that. What year would that have been?
87 or 88.
Okay. I would have been there because I don't think I missed one. I might have missed one or two since 86. And I've been to just about every one except this most recent one. I missed this one recently. But I don't think and I was pre my Ibanez relationship. So maybe I don't even remember hearing about that. So that sounds cool.
Were you there the year they held the Kramer Note the entire show on, wasn't the Sustainiac, it was the Sustainer.
Well, I was the first guy to demo the Kramer sustain, the Floyd Rose Sustainer. That was 1989, I think. I was at the booth playing the entire NAMM show. I don't remember the ones note sustaining the entire show. Go out for a bite and you come back, it's still singing. Ooh. I don't remember that.
All right, gentlemen.
So much fun I remember.
Because
great memories.
I'm sure we could talk about NAMM shows and guitar camps, which is great. Yeah. First of all, I'm really excited to get a chance to put the two of you guys together. Two ridiculously talented, very uniquely voiced guitar players who each have your own nuance to what you do. Very definable, put it on, recognize the style, which is not an easy thing to do in this day and age. So, but you've got this relationship where, Josh, you produced this most recent record, Electric Truth. And as we talked a little bit about yesterday, behind the scenes, as I understand it, Andy's sitting, or standing behind you, and you're in the chair, and the kind of the classic thing that happens when people who know each other well, you have to find that ability to go, hey, that was great, let's do another.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is really studioese are like, well, that one's not going to do it. I hope we get the next one and the next however. So if you can, give us a little bit about the backstory of Andy, starting with why you felt you wanted a producer, why you chose Josh, and then Josh, anywhere you want to jump in about kind of what it's like on your side, that would be great.
Sure.
Let me just start, and I'm gonna enjoy Josh's memories too, because now that this is like my 40th plus interview that I've done about the Electric Truth record, so kudos to Doug for being the first guy to think, well, let's get Andy and Josh together. It was like, because every time I was doing these interviews, like, oh, I kind of wish Josh was here to give that perspective, because it's going to be, from a different angle, right? But just the way Josh and I met, I'm a little fuzzy with where I got Josh's phone number, but I believe I just called you. I remember calling you, and you were just getting off one of the blues cruises or something. Do you remember that?
Well, I think I gave you my number at NAMM at the Ibanez booth before I had really signed on with them, and then you came to Guitar Sanctuary and we chatted. I did a clinic there, and you came and hung out.
Okay.
So I remember talking about it there, prefacing it at least, and then but then you just called.
I think it was like my memory was just calling to say how much I was seeing all your videos on YouTube and such, and digging your playing, digging your band. But around that time, you had mentioned that I just finished my home studio. Come out and record. Yeah. And it was one of those things, like, because how many times throughout our lives say, hey, let's get together, man. Like, and with good intentions a lot of the time, but usually things never pan out, or just people have busy lives. But for whatever reason, it just kind of stuck with me, like, that we should do this, and I somewhere in the conversation, during the idea of it just hit upon, like, okay, well, let me just come out, and you be the producer, you pick the players, both write some tunes, maybe we can collaborate and co-write some stuff. It just seemed like a very organic, type of thing where, again, it's an unlikely thing. Hey, come out, okay, great. I mean, I'm in Texas. It's not like an easy thing to just come on down to the studio. But I just knew that, well, there's a couple things. One was, like, I would really enjoy doing a project that wasn't with my own band, and I of course love my band. I love playing my own thing, but it's always great when you can, change things up. For me, it would be on several levels. It would be a band that I hadn't played with before, and having a friend that's a guitar player, an amazing guitar player, be the producer, which the only times I've had co-producers or producers, it's like either my engineer or my bandmates. Mike Dane really co-produced or really produced the last ATB record. So more and more, I realize it's good for me to let go in a way that, like, I don't have to have everything my way. Get some great perspective from other players, and with a great guitar player like Josh in the producer's chair, with a whole different set of experiences, it's only going to be for the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, I just selfishly, for me, I produce so many of these, and a lot of the times the approach is as a fan. For me, I find that's what works. So with guys like Andy, who I've loved their playing literally for a lot of my lifetime, I selfishly have things that I would like to have heard Andy play or do, or things that I know he would kill. So it was the same when I produced this person or that person. There's always the little fan in me that wants to hear certain things I've always wanted to hear from those guys. So, and then the other half of me is, when I say something to somebody, like I said to Andy, hey, you should come out and record. The second somebody shows interest, I don't let it lag. Like I make things happen quick. I'm a very fast mover when it comes to projects like this. I just love to make music. So when someone actually shows some interest and the spark gets lit for me, then I don't let it drop. I don't drop the ball. I let it just happen. I make it happen. If I need to write tunes, I start writing tunes. If I just start planning things to make stuff happen like that. And so the second Andy showed interest, I got really excited, and then it became, okay, how do we do this? When do we do this?
That's great. And it just happened. I guess it wasn't long before, maybe a few months out before the 2020 NAMM. So we just realized, hey, I'm coming out for NAMM. We had a gig with the band, and let's just come a few days early. And that's what we hit upon. The schedule worked out great. So I think I had a day of pre-production with you, and then I got to your place, and then we sketched out some charts and looked at tunes and even added a tune.
We spent the whole day before tracking.
Yeah.
Because I have a guest room here at the studio, so Andy stayed here. And we spent the whole day. You had sent me some demos, so I'd already gone through some of those, and made notes and wrote a bridge or blah blah blah, and then we wrote some other stuff together when he got here, and we just kind of You even had
Yeah.
some charts together. The rest of them we wrote
There was
charts
a
that
few.
day.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ones that I had pretty fleshed out demos, which tended to be the ballads, like
Yeah.
take me with you and when words fail and grace. Some things I had kind of together. The one tune I remember, I think we wrote over the phone. Do you remember when we did?
Yeah.
I had this Al McKay sounding riff, from Earth, Wind and Fire, and it was just me trying to imitate that. Shining Star riff, which I never properly learned. Right, it was just kind of me, because I knew it was two guitar parts. I know he had overdubbed it, but the tone of it and the feel, I could just go up, double stops on the harmonic, the pentatonic scale. But so after after we had recorded the song and stuff, this just goes back a few months ago. I'd found that he did a Starlix video, back in the '80s or whatever it was, and he breaks it down. And it's the coolest thing, and because I'd never really gone to the record and tried to learn it, but he explains what he's doing, right? And it's just this basic. It's a piano. It's like boogie woogie left hand, dyads, and so.
Yeah.
But just hearing the guy do it and break it down with that sound, so that was the
good.
idea. So I thought this would be great. And another thing about that was, he was notably a telly player for a lot of those tracks, I think, or 335, but that middle position. And at the prospect of working with Josh, I was digging all of his telly style playing. So I had this old 68 telly, in my hands a lot, and wrote a couple tunes on that. But I had that riff. I play it for Josh over the phone, and he immediately gets he gets that bridge, which I'm recognizing now is fairly Shining Star-esque. But this little move here is great. Love that. I never would have thought, skipping that one chord.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite things, Josh, was your sense of arrangement and some of the parts that on the fly you would come up with. I think we were on the floor recording EWF and working out the tune, and we were going to jam at the end and says, oh man, it needs a different riff, and you had this thing in 5, took us all a second to get the feel of the riff, and then it was like, all right. And I don't know how many takes we did, but it couldn't have been more than 2.
Not very many. No, not very many takes. Yeah. And I remember Lamar playing cowbell through that section in 5, playing go-go cowbell, which was great. Yeah.
It just added to the joy. And that's why I wanted to lead the record off with that one, because it was such a fun track, and it's all live except for whatever we would have overdubbed percussion-wise.
I don't think that track has any overdubs other than, cowbell and whatever.
I think that's it. It's just kind of... But because the track really needed that live energy. Had I gone back and tried to, replace the solo or whatever, and it's not perfect, but man, there's a vibe. And this is the other thing I would add and say one of my fondest things about it was, it's gonna be my record in a way, but I'm actually kind of a side guy in this band that has played a lot together. I'm coming into a family. I'm coming into Josh's studio with his great engineer, Alan Hertz, who just really had such a huge impact on this record. Just his energy and his cool spirit, but just the sounds, man. It's one of my favorite sounding records I've ever had a part of. But so I'm coming in, and there's the great Lamar Carter on drums, who I hadn't met before the day. Travis Carlton, who I guess hadn't met any of these guys, and I knew about Travis because, of course, his dad is the one of my heroes, Larry Carlton. But he plays with his dad, and he plays with Robin, so I'm well aware of his playing. And then Darren Johnson on keyboards, that has an incredible career, from Miles Davis on. Yeah. So I'm in a great position here because, I got to rise. This is like, these guys have played with the best of the best, and they don't know me. I'm just this guy that their friend Josh is producing a record for, which they've probably played on lots of other stuff, and maybe to varying degrees of things they may have enjoyed or not. Who knows? But that's just one of those things where session guys they get put in situations. Sometimes it's fun for them, and sometimes it's not. So I can't speak for them and whether they enjoyed it or not. But for me, it's recognizing pretty quickly how it's one thing to have a room full of great musicians, and they can be great players on their own. But the next level is great musicians who really listen to each other. and you can hear that on the EWF track. We're all reacting to each other in real time. And again, I'm the new kid, right? I'm the new kid in the room. And so I'm hoping to, to have that connection, because that's what I look for in my own band or any musicians I play with. But I really felt pretty quickly very comfortable with everybody. There was, no ego, no attitude about anything. Just everybody, doing the best that they can and for the greater good. So, but again, that was the faith I had in Josh, just having seen the bands that he was working with live and the sound of his records, and even that In the Jam thing, that was one of the tunes that there was we both have done series of videos for the great True Fire Company, some instructional stuff, and one of their series is called In the Jam, where you create some backing tracks and then you play on top of it, and they can, in this little mixer, they can extract whatever they want to extract and be the rhythm guitar player or lead guitar player. But Josh had one of those, and I was playing along with it one day, and I just love the groove, man. Whatever this is, man, write me a tune like that.
Yeah.
Right. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's that Johnny Taylor groove." Yeah. Okay, great. And so he did it. He writes that. He wrote this killer tune, and we never came up with a better title than Johnny T. It was just like, that's gonna roll. Let's just call it Johnny T, man.
Yeah.
But the feel of that, and that's also the one track that Josh plays on. I think when people first heard about, oh, Josh and Andy, wow, you're cutting heads. It wasn't about that. It's like, but there is some nice, there's that one tune that Josh plays on, and it is the best solo on the record. I'm sorry. Josh comes in just like, so, but that was one that I redid. We cut it live and we kept your track, but I wasn't happy with the tone. My performance wasn't that great. And by the time I got home, I know I'm jumping around here, but so we had the 2.5 days of tracking, 2 days with the band, the next day for some overdubs, and we had 3 or 4 things we needed to finish. Oh, okay, I'll come back in March.
Yeah, and then
nobody went anywhere in March. So eventually, I slowly finished it on my own here, which would have happened a lot quicker had I gone back out in 2 more days. We would have had the record.
What's crazy thinking about is how much we got done in 2.5 days, because
it's pretty great.
I mean, we tracked the entirety of the rhythm section, and like you said, some of those tunes have the live solos left on there. A lot of the live parts in general stuck, but then even then, the third day when we did the half day of just guitar and you were in the control room, I mean, I think we finished Shuggy that day, Take Me With You that day, Apocryphal that day.
Say What You Want, we got that.
Say What You Want. I mean, we finished a lot of stuff, and then we drove and played a gig that night at NAMM.
That's right. Man, because Andy Wood had a show he had booked, and the headliner backed out, and so he called. It's like, man, can you guys help me out? And it's like, oh, we're doing a record, but we can be there by That's right. We both went and hung and played. And that was good. Gary, it was Novak playing that, right?
It was me, Novak, and Travis. Yeah.
Love Gary's playing a lot, man. He sounds so good. That you guys killed. It was fantastic.
But that's right. We worked that half day and then drove down to
It's a good day, man. That's a good day. I remember. The solo at the end of Shuggy is one of my favorite solos on there.
That's my favorite solo on the record. You said my favorite is the outro solo on Shuggy. It's so good. And the tone is so good.
That's the old AT100 neck pickup. I was thinking about it, and there's only one moment in there it was almost a perfect solo, but I get a little out of pocket at one point. I was like, but that's it's this is the way it is. It was real, and that's the beauty of working quickly like we were. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing to point out too, in Josh's energy about once he has that little flicker of momentum, okay, I'll make it happen. Whereas me, things kind of fall away sometimes, or like I'll just be focused on something else 10 minutes later. So it was great to have that, to get that record on the tracks. And of course, because not much was happening over the next 2 years, it was awfully handy to after COVID start loosening up and all that had this record in the can, and really, really proud of it on lots of levels, because it was a little different than my normal record, but it's still my personality. But like Josh said, he's going to draw some different things out, maybe put me in a situation. Not many people heard me do anything kind of like the funky thing that EWF is, even though I've played that style of music my whole life, just from cover bands and being such a fan of Al McKay and Nile Rodgers and all the great, great funk players, anyway, that's the fun thing about it, and I will hopefully do more down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tomorrow,
That's awesome.
tomorrow after lunch, Josh. Let's do it.
All right.
You've got 2 days off this year.
I've got 2 days off right now. Yeah.
He's the hardest working man next to his cohort Joe Bonamassa. These guys are just touring their butts off and making great records.
Lately, it's been really busy. Yeah, but that's a good thing. Like I'm happy.
That's a great thing. So I was fortunate to get to hang with Josh, early, or earlier, because it'll be tougher these days. But yeah, we'll make it happen.
All right. Awesome. So I got a couple of questions because I'm sure there are some guitar players that are watching this and one like, how do I get Josh to produce my album? One, is that a relatively high bar that you kind of, you decide who you're going to produce, or you kind of like, I'm a working guy, I got a studio, I'm here. How does that work?
It's a little of both. So, man, it's gotten to where I'm producing, 5, 6, sometimes 7 records a year between. So Joe Bonamassa and I have like a production team that we produce records together for Joe's label, and then I do other ones on my own here at my studio, and some of it is just schedule driven, but I mostly want to do projects obviously that I feel invested in and that make me excited, and that I know we're going to be great, but I also I want to work with artists who are still like kind of finding their thing. I enjoy like trying to help somebody reach a new level or find a new voice inside them maybe they didn't know they have. I never thought this would be where I ended up. I just thought I'd be a gigging guitar player for the rest of my life, and I am, but this whole record thing happened very organically, and I really love doing it because I find that it's making me a better guitar player and musician, especially every one of these albums. Every one I learn better ways to arrange music, better ways to arrange horns or strings, or to mix things, or to mic things, and better ways to develop interpersonal relationships with people and try to pull better things out of people, or whatever, motivate people. Like, I really enjoy that. That's been my drug of choice as a musician, and my whole life in general, is trying to improve and get better. That's my drug. So doing all these projects like this help me keep growing, and I need that. So I'm open to anybody who wants to make a record with me, having the conversation, but sometimes it's just now about time and schedule and things like that.
On True Fire, your bio, this is pretty hilarious. For those of us that make records, at 14, Josh released his first CD, Born Under a Bad Sign. At 15, he released his second CD. I'm like, wait a second. He's a flipping teenager putting out back-to-back records in back-to-back years. I mean, it's just like, seriously, dude. Like, that's kind of nuts. It's fair, funny, but awesome.
It's, I'm 42 years old, and sometimes I forget how long ago I started doing this stuff, and because it seems like another lifetime, those kid records and all those things I did. And now that Joe and I are so close and work together so much, we have such similar upbringings. So we've been traveling the country lately and the world, and there's so many places like, dude, where'd you used to play in this city when we were 13? Oh yeah, I played there too when I was 13. You know what I mean? And all this stuff, all these shared experiences and memories. But again, I think that's another reason why I've ended up where I am. I was fortunate, I think, to be one of the last generations to be able to play. I played 1,000 gigs between the age of 13 and 18. You know what I mean? Like 1,000 probably. Yeah. Every weekend, all through school, toured on my summer breaks, my winter breaks. And when people ask me, how I found my voice as an improviser, that's how. It's all those years of playing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no shortcut, and that's exactly right. It was the same for me. It was just always gigging from 8th grade on. I was never not in a band. I didn't tour a lot till years later, but so many gigs, and that's how you get it together. That's how you physically make that connection with your instrument, but also negotiating a thing. All the live shenanigans with the band or whatever socially. you find your place, and you just mature, at a really, really rapid rate. I remember my first 2 years in Miami, where I was, studying jazz and such at the university, but I had a cover band gig 6 nights a week, and playing 3-4 sets a night, and then hanging all day with these amazing players. That's it. That's the juice. And I'm like Josh. I constantly want that inspiration. I constantly want that. I want to keep growing. And the players that I seem to gravitate towards in my life now are the ones that do that also. That they're just like, of course, Jeff Beck will everybody will mention that. He could have rested on the laurels of Shapes of Things in '65. And
Yeah.
been on Mount Rushmore at that point of guitar play. So yeah, it's that journey and enjoying that and learning and growing. And that's not a better position for Josh to be in now, because he's standing next to, this other incredible guitar player all night, every night, and then making records together with a variety, all these guys are working with, Eric Gales and Joanne and Mark Broussard recently. They're all going to have their things that you're going to learn from just by absorbing, watching how they operate and how they function in the studio. So
Yeah.
best possible world, man. That's awesome.
All right. One of the things I would love to do is I want to play through a couple little snippets off of Spotify and just zero in on a couple of things and talk about them. But before we do that, we got to have a little bit of gear show and tell. So Andy,
man, now you're just bragging. Look at all that.
Look at all that.
Yeah, baby.
So Andy, you've been here. You've been here.
Yeah.
And you've been here.
That's the Mobius, but that should be a timeline, right? Or is that a timeline?
That is a timeline, but maybe my color correction needs a little bit of improvement.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So the point, and Josh, you're welcome to jump in on this. But Andy, you now have the Halo. Yeah. I would love to hear kind of what it was about the Echoplex,
right?
Preamp, the tape, all of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What it is that you loved about, because you actually had 2 Deluxe Memory Man on your board, which makes you the bravest person in the world to travel with 2 of those. Like how
brave
you managed?
Maybe not the word, yeah, but yes.
And they sounded great, but the idea of flying with that stuff is. Yeah. Like how they didn't, the circuit boards didn't snap in half, and how they still worked. They weren't.
Oh, they absolutely did. Yeah. And the switches were always going bad. We eventually just hardwired it you couldn't turn it on and off. It was just on. Let's just get rid of the switch. It's always messed up. Yeah. Well, that's the thing with some of these amazing sounding units. The tape echoes, of course, are volatile because it's impossible to keep them running correctly. I've got a stack sitting to my left, and none of them are working. I've got 2 at Mike Dane's studio that function just enough, and we still record with them, because there is something about the preamp and something about the tape when it's really working properly. But the idea behind the Halo for me was kind of, it's not trying to replicate specifically one of those units, but what I was doing with the Memory Man echoes, the Deluxe Memory Man electro-harmonics we're talking about, was kind of replicating in a way the EP3s, and that the modulation you could dial in just right, so it's just out of tune like an imperfect tape. And then when I got fed up with the volatility of those and them never working as they should, the timeline was there to I called it. It got me like 92% there. It was really, really good. I spent a long time deep editing the particular program in the timeline to get it pretty close, but when I had the opportunity to really work with Robert Keeley, I had the idea of I would love to get a simple box that has my sound in it. The timeline's amazing and it does 1,000 things, but I was using 1, maybe 2 presets all night. I never used the MIDI. I mean, it's a deep box and does incredible things that I will never need or never use. So I thought, what if I could just really fine tune, in my head, I've got an idea what I want to sound like. And it's not specifically one unit or the other, because I love the EP3s, but they don't do what the Memory Man does. And I like what the timeline does, but it doesn't do these other things. So I thought, in my head, I had kind of a best of what would be the best sound. And I was fortunate that Robert Keeley wanted to go down the path. He had a platform called the Echoes pedal that he thought would be a pretty easy jumping off point, mod some things, but it was not. That was a fine pedal and it sounded really good, but we took the next year and a half after getting to that point and changed everything about it. And so between Robert Keeley and one of his main assistants, a guy named Aaron Pierce, whose ears were really where my ears were, as far as really getting to the crux of all these great units and what I was going for. And it's one thing to try to verbalize to somebody, well, it needs more air, it needs more modulations, not spread right. We got in the room at no less than a dozen times together. They're in Oklahoma City and I'm in McKinney. It's about 3.5 hours, but a lot of driving back and forth because it's not going to happen in speech. You have to be in the room and really hear what's happening. So I was so blessed that they wanted to take that time and really get it right and not settle. That was the key, not settling for anything, because if it's going to be in my board, if I'm going to have a signature anything, it's got to be something I'm really playing, really using, right? So I take a lot of care and pride in that, because that's your brand. If you don't have that kind of integrity, then what are we doing, right? But anyway, so we finally got it. Came out June 10th. We finally got the unit out there. So I couldn't be more proud, and it's apparently resonating with a lot of people. It's a lot of people getting it in their hands and digging it. So very, very, very pleased. So thanks for bringing that up. A shameless plug, but yeah, man, why not? Because it is the echo is such a part of my thing. It's never off, basically. I'm gonna have that delay on in varying degrees at all times. It just kind of it's like my sustain pedal on a piano, so I can play a note and the cool thing about the Halo is how on a really great tape echo or a dialed in device, if you can get those repeats to really kind of just get out of the way and feather into each other, it turns into a reverb kind of sound. Because I don't know if we're in stereo or not, but if we were. So there's no reverb, and here's with the Halo off. So, just over the years, it's just become such a part of my overall tone that everything I dial in is with that. I do dry it up, of course, when that's the sound that's needed. But in general, it's that dual modulated dual delay that's kind of my thing. So now people can get that sound exactly curated. It's at my exact setting, and it does a lot of other stuff. It's got some great slapback echo set up in it. Single delays. You can have a tap tempo with the dotted eighth or the quarter note, and a couple other cool different parameters of dual echo, like the old Miazzi, like what Hank Marvin would have used on Apache. That was another delay sound I wanted to go for. We really got a great version of that. And then the Tom Scholz ratio, which is interesting because the thing that I've used, which I got from Simon Phillips via David Gilmour, was the dotted eighth quarter, 375 milliseconds, 500 milliseconds on the other. Tom Scholz's unit, very curiously, is 300 and 500. So it's a whole different feel. I thought good enough for Tom Scholz. He knows a thing or two about echo. If you listen to those Boston records, my God, it's some of the greatest sounding echo ever. Anyway, so all my favorite things in one box. I'm really, really proud of that.
Awesome. All right, let's go through some music here.
Yeah, man.
And hopefully this is going to work as intended. I want to just play a couple of snippets.
It always does, doesn't it? Come on, Doug. No troubles here, man.
So, the neat thing is I'm actually going to start with the top of One Last Time. And I'm going to say the comment here so people, as they're listening to it, this is a Josh thing. And I don't know whether it was you as the producer or the organ player, but the organ at the top of the track, like, it's just like, it makes the part. I mean, you just hear, I'm getting little goosebumps. I mean, you just kind of go. Let me play it, and then let's come back to it. So let me just make sure I'm at the right place, and let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. There we go. All right. Give me a second, and you'll see Spotify right about.
There it is. Pick a tune, any tune. That's a vibe, man. That's a vibe.
Gotta stop. What a great vibe. So I heard a couple of things happening keys wise. So, what was happening there? Kind of how do you decide? Let the player do it, or you're kind of like, okay, wait a second, because it's a very special moment, and the keys. Go ahead, please.
It's a little of both. I can't remember. One of those keyboards is live on the tracking down, so it was either organ or Wurlitzer on the go down.
I think we would have gone down on the Wurlitzer, and I know this because when we were doing the Leslie with the B3, I had to go direct because there was limitations in isolation. But my vivid memory about the B3, and you were producing Darren on it, he might have vibed and played the way he would normally play because, again, you've got these great players, let them do what they do. But at the end, you had them, Yeah, you had him. And I wait for that every time I hear the song. I just want to hear that. It's like
yeah.
It's
funny with such great players like that. You got to walk the line of. There are things I know I want to accomplish, but you have to say it in the right way and trust players to do what they got to do. So Darren is a great organist, which is a thing in its own. You can, you could be a great keyboard player and piano player and all that, but playing organ is a physical thing too, and knowing the tones and all that. And so I have a really nice C3 here with a 122, and so it's a nice instrument that I know sounds good. And Darren, a lot of that is his instincts for how to build a track and know how to ride the dynamics of an organ through a track like that. And then with little moments where I say, hey, Darren, right here, I need this or I need that. So it's a balance of both things. Kind of.
Yeah. It's lovely. As it kind of opens up, it's like a flower. You're like, wow. Yeah. Pollinated. Okay. Take me with you. It's a really interesting form. I mean, I'd love to, first of all, kind of talk about form because as a producer, again, working with Joe, you're doing vocal records. So you're like, all right, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, chorus 2, bridge, solo, whatever. Sure. That song, the verse is the chorus is the verse. Sure. And then it's got this kind of, it's like the chorus, it's the post-chorus. It's not a pre-chorus, it's a post-chorus. So, as a producer, how do you kind of balance if I'm going to look at it in terms of a traditional vocal song, it's got this flow. It doesn't do the, you build, there's the hook.
No.
How did you guys, how as a producer do you kind of go, because as you're listening to it as the listener, you don't notice that stuff. As you're working as a arranger, that stuff will kill you if you chew it up too much and you lose the focus of trying to make the essence into something that it wasn't. So I'd love to get your guys' take on that because it's really powerful.
Go ahead, Andy.
My memory is this one was kind of, I think, fully formed when I got there, right? I mean, I think I had...
You had this, you had a chart for this and the tune, at least the map out. I think what I thought was most important when it came to arranging this and producing it as far as instrumentation and vibe was, like you said, that the track had to build in a way that was natural. So there's a lot of little elements in this song that help it keep pushing forward because it could have just stayed like this. You know what I mean? And so there's little things. There's like a Mellotron track that comes in. There's a different rhythm guitar in the second verse.
Only in the second, or I call that the chorus. A couple of fills in that second verse you had me do. Yeah. I think I did
even
that
the first chord of the second verse. I think you play a different chord. The first chord, maybe with a second on top or something like that.
I would have hung with the ninth on top there.
The ninth, yeah.
And I love that backward swell you guys did into the downbeat after the intro.
So
that was a nice one.
So there's a lot of little things that you do in a track like that, where there's multiple sections. You've got the big guitar, the kind of the ethereal intro, then the big intro, then the verse sucks down again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got the big intro, comes back, re-intro. And then you've got this bridge where Andy's, playing really straight through this bridge. Travis plays some nice fills. And then, even the part where it speeds, where it goes to the, the fast outro part, we're speeding up in real time. We did that on the fly.
Yeah, there was at least 3 or 4 BPM faster.
Yeah,
because the front felt better. It needs to stay here, but we need this energy for the back half to really get it across the finish line. Yeah,
we tempo map. So Lamar's playing with a click, and he hears it speed up, and we're just following him. You know what I mean? And also Lamar has an amazing ability to just bury that click where you just don't feel it at all. So he's speeding up, but it didn't feel abrupt, playing it live with him. So there's a lot of little things that you have to do with a track like this to keep it always pushing forward so it doesn't flatline.
Yeah. All right, Josh, you bring up something interesting, which is the organic nature of the records that we grew up listening to, most of which weren't cut to a click. Yeah. There's actually a spot in Led Zeppelin 1 where you can actually hear some little rhythm machine open up on one of the tracks.
Yeah.
But in terms of kind of going, this is the way they sped up naturally, how, was that something you just started tempo mapping and just kind of experimented? Was that something you guys did together? How did that happen organically?
Yeah. We did it together. We sat there. They went out and played, and it just kind of felt like, okay, this obviously needs to have a lot more urgency when this section comes in. And so I think Lamar just said, why don't we just speed up the click there? And I don't know how much you were listening to the click, Andy, when that happened.
I probably wasn't. For that reason, I just always want to follow, lock with the drums,
Yeah, I tend to. Lamar is like my secret weapon, so that's why I like using him, because it's like I can always, when I play with him, I don't need the click in my ears unless I'm playing unaccompanied sections in a track. I shut it off completely and just rely on playing with Lamar, as because I know he's locked. And then if I end up needing to go into Pro Tools later and do something, I can do it because we are on the grid. But I'm not playing like I'm on the grid or conscious of it in any way.
Right. It still feels organic. I agree. The feel is incredible on the whole record. Yeah.
So the Univibe, that kind of like wanting to add it on the second half of the verse and that sort of thing, it's a tendency that you can find yourself on slower songs kind of going, time to bring in the Univibe or that chorus on the pre-chorus. It's one of those things that is very tempting to use more than once. How do you find yourself kind of when as you guys were doing this, did you kind of go, we want to use it, but we don't want to overuse it? Or do you just kind of do it when it feels right?
I don't remember discussing it. I think it was just kind of an instinctual thing that I knew it. Just the main riff sounded cool with it. And then it would have hung in there for the verses, whatever I'm doing quarterly there. So yeah, it's nice, but with anything that's such a distinct effect, like a Univibe or an Octavia, I mean, you're limited in how much you can really use it without it being just, okay, that's a bit much. Josh, maybe you can correct me, but I don't remember discussing it. It felt pretty natural as we were doing it,
I knew, I mean, it felt like the right thing for that, for the main part.
Yeah, exactly. But off in the chorus and never again,
Yeah, pretty much. It just felt like the right thing. I trust Andy on it's his number one. He wrote the tune, so I know what he wants to hear. Also, it's not like he doesn't have a track record for a great tone. So it wasn't often I was turning around saying, "Man, Andy, that's not it. We got to change this."
Yeah,
change
had me. I remember you had me like, man, try that with a little less gain, or there'd be a comment every now and then.
Little things like that.
Yeah, but that was great, and that's what I love, and that's what I wanted. It's like, you want to like, okay, I'll do something different. We've heard what you're doing on your own. Cool, maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. That was, and again, I'll say it a million times, but that was the beauty of being in the room with Josh, is that I don't make records with another guitar player in the room almost ever. So to have it,
Did we use the Selmer on that song?
We used it on something. I don't remember what we would have used it on though. Maybe for those the chords in the chorus. I think it was
those power chords in the chorus, little things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's also part of the thing that we live in this world now where we're able to make records so quickly and professionally in any level on any speed because of the gear that's available to us. And
Yeah.
I tend to operate the opposite way. Like, not that I don't like convenience and new stuff, but it's like I get excited about, dude, let's throw up another amp for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
needs to be different, this part. In fact, it
Sure.
needs to be this thing that I'm hearing right now. It needs to be whatever that is at that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. That stuff still gets me excited, like, to do
Absolutely,
those
man.
things.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we get set, and I use the Mesas primarily on a lot of it, but in my studio too, there's these variety of classic amps. Like, oh, but yeah, let's try that. And it inspires you to play a different way, and it adds such a different color than if you just stayed to the same rig and the same speakers, which can sound nice, but no, you want that variety. Get that little variation along the way.
Yeah, I know we used the Selmer at some point. Did we use my basement for anything? I can't.
I think
remember.
we definitely tried it. I'm not sure if it made a track, but I don't recall. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that EWF, you listen to it start the album and you're like, that is a different guitar sound. And so I was thinking, all right, he's playing through some kind of tweedy kind of thing. But hang on a second. Let's cue this up real quick. Hang on.
Yeah.
See if I can do this without breaking anything. All right.
You did so well in the last one.
Give me time.
You're doing so well, Doug.
All right. Ready.
Some people might edit that shit out. Yeah. Pick it. Wow. There's that cowbell.
All right, I hate to stop all that good stuff. Oh, wait. No, hold on. There you go, Eddie. We'll be back. Gosh, that's so good. So, first of all, it's obviously, I hate to say it, it's not, hang on. It's hiding back there. Just one second. It's not that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's not,
so
well, that's, yes, dear.
obviously,
I love guitars.
you love guitars, but
Yeah,
very clearly there's a reason you're like, you're always with that particular one that's got the little broken piece of the pick guard, which is very vintage. It's very Fender's 50 Strat. I love that, actually. I just got to say it.
That was the idea behind this. I mean, this is the prototype from 1994 that became the AT100 eventually. And yeah, it's a modernized version of Leo's original design, so it's been my main guitar ever since. But and a lovely over 30 years now relationship with Ibanez. But I also this is my main voice. But man, every other guitar is going to inspire you to play and sound differently, of course. And doing a funky track, but that's an homage to Al McKay. Well, I just had, and that old Telecaster is a '68, and I lucked into it probably about 20 years ago. I never had a really great Tele. And the guitar kind of found me in a very strange circumstance, but I was very happy to get it when I did. And it's one of my main session guitars. I take it on every session. I'll take this guitar. I have a 65 Strat and that Tele. And with those guitars, I can just do about any session. And I've got a variety of other, Rickenbacker and Gretsch or whatever it might be. But, Desert Island is this guitar. If there's electricity and an amp, of course, on the Desert Island, this would be my main one, and I think that of course, Ibanez probably prefers I play only this guitar, but I'm sure they also respect that it's all about tone, and that always best tone always wins, man.
Yeah.
Andy, you're not the only person in the room that's got a signature Ibanez, as I recall.
Who's that? Oh, this guy, Josh. Yes. Oh my God, look at that guitar. It's so
come
pretty.
on.
It's so
Tell
pretty,
us about this guitar. Tell us, kind of what you were looking for. And I can see that it's got the kind of the three saddle pieces, which that whole intonating thing with the telly thing, I would love to hear kind of how it makes the magic, but in the studio, it must sometimes, every so often, be a little bit of a thing, or you just like the sound of it. Tell us what you love about it and why.
Well, part of the reason a Telecaster is magic is the sum of all its parts, and some of that means the limitations imposed on you by simplicity of the guitar. A Telecaster to me does not sound like a Telecaster unless it has 3 saddles. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? That's part of the magic of the guitar. So Ibanez makes this model with 6 saddles and with 3, and certainly my signature one was only going to have 3 saddles on it. Ibanez let me run wild with this guitar and do everything I wanted. I feel fairly confident in saying, at least since the lawsuit era, that this is the most vintage Ibanez they've made in the last 40 years. I feel really confident actually saying that. I know it's the only one with vintage tuners, the only one that's 21 frets. It's the only one with no contours and just a completely solid body. They let me do everything. I mean, I chose pots and caps. I 3D printed out knobs until we got the right knurl and height and size. Everything about this guitar, they let me pick. And drill down on the little details. And man, like Andy said, I just couldn't be more thrilled to be involved with the company and the people that I've met and the friends I've made already. They've been so great and so accommodating. And luckily, people seem to dig the guitar. It's been doing really well since it came out this year, last year. We announced it last year in January at the virtual NAMM, but it really hasn't started to hit stores until the middle of last year, actually not till August, September, really, because of all the shipping delays and all that. But I'm so proud to have this guitar. And part of the reason I went with Ibanez is from talking to Andy and other people, other friends who have been involved with them for many years. And I never got a bad word from anybody. Everybody just said, what a good company they were and good people and all that. And they proved it during this whole process. So, I'm thrilled to have the flat 5-1, we call this one.
Heck yeah, man. Gorgeous.
Andy.
Yes, dear.
Awesome. Thank you, by the way. Honey, is there a question that I remember I was talking with Mr. Satriani once, and he was kind of appalled at like the lack of preparedness that a lot of people have going into these interviews. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, he's like, what, did they wake up in the morning and decide they were going to interview me that day? Yeah. Is there a question that you've always wished somebody would ask, or something that you're like, I would love people to know this about my perspective about what I do?
Oh man, putting me on the spot. Oh,
wow.
Not necessarily. I feel like over the course of, again, like I said, I've done about, just to promote Electric Truth, I did over 40 different podcasts and interviews, and I answer very honestly and sometimes even more openly than I should. So I don't really think I've left anything off the table. It's all out there. You know what I'm saying? I enjoy that. Warts and all, it's not been an easy life as far as getting to the point I'm at now, blessings on many levels, but it's been a lot of hard work and just like everybody else, just so many incredible, things in the road that can get in your way, health wise, emotionally, physically, whatever it might be. But the long answer to your question is not really. There's nothing, what do you want to know?
With that opening, yeah. Both of you guys have been doing this for a long time. People see the A reel. They never see the F reel. all the projects that didn't happen, all the heartbreaks, all the times you got screwed over by somebody in business, all the times that you maybe didn't get paid, and all the other stuff that people don't realize is actually where you build the muscles such that when it's time to actually step up and do and deliver, you do that. So notably, this album has vocals. So I'm kind of curious, especially with, kind of stepping in, having Josh produce this. Mm-hmm. One could arguably go, is this a more of a, looking at what the next record or records will be like, and maybe just for example, Paul Gilbert, great example, went from being the world's, I'll just say it, the number one shredder. Nobody does it like Paul. Nobody will ever do it like Paul. but he was like, all of a sudden, you got Blues Paul. Like nobody would have expected Blues Paul. It's like, didn't see it coming. Right. But as an end result, he reinvented himself in a way that you're not necessarily doing with the context of this album, but you're grabbing hold of some textures, some grooves, the wisdom of a producer that is giving you the freedom to not do the same record that you've done in the past, and the wisdom to know how to kind of, assist you in that path.
Right.
As an artist that's been doing this for a long time, are you kind of going, hey, what does the next part of this journey look like? And was this record intended to be a stepping stone in that journey?
Every record for me is just, an extension of what's happening at that point. You know what I mean? Whatever my interests might be. And again, to hook up with Josh allowed me to go in a slightly different path. You bring up the vocal thing. I've had vocals sprinkled out certain records over the past. There was no specific agenda or, hey, let's go this direction. There was zero preconception. It was very organically, let's put some stuff together. What works as a record? Here we go. And I'm much more a fan of that kind of organic flow. Nobody would have expected me to do the Bossa Nova record I did a few years ago. It just happened. I was in Brazil doing the clinics, and I said, hey, man, I should play some bossas every night because I'm a big fan. I play a lot of jazz. And next thing I know, I'm in the studio with Roberto Menescal, one of the guys that helped invent the genre, along with Joe Gilberto and Joe Beam and all these guys. I couldn't have tried to make it happen the way I did, but from my love of that music, my love of so many different types of music, it just kind of happened. The last couple of, trio records, well, I guess from Resolution forward, just each record hopefully striving to improve whatever had been done before, as far as on my own records or my favorite things about other people's records, just trying to get some great tones, I just really want to write great songs, particularly in the instrumental guitar world. It doesn't seem to be, always the goal, right? There can be, playing over composition as an importance. And I'm guilty of that early in my career as well. Things were, I wanted it to be a great song, but I was more concerned, well, what can I do to prove or to show off, or, to try to, here, I can do this. There's a bit of that, I think, when you're younger, but as I'd done enough of that early on, and then, but I'm always I just want to hear great songs, whether it's an instrumental guitar player or not. That's why I love Metheny so much. The guy writes some of the greatest melodies ever. Farmer's Trust doesn't get any better than that. It's one of the great ballads in ever written. So it's always going to be, and I tend to listen to more vocal music than I do guitar music. I just happen to be a guitar player. And I write a ton of vocal music that hasn't been released. A lot of just kind of straight ahead pop stuff. Just, Elvis Costello meets whatever Beatles meets, I did that one record, Orange Swirl, back in the 90s. It was very much affected with a Elvis kind of sounding voice, Lennon-y voice. But I can only go where the heart really wants to go. I learned early on by trying to go somewhere where I think somebody else wants me to go or where a trend is going. It doesn't make any sense. And people hear the difference, man. They can tell what's authentic and what's not. And I just always want to try to keep it as real and as authentic as I can, whether it's a vocal tune but yeah, there was no specific agenda. Just those, I had a couple of tunes that, I think these are vocal tunes. Let's write some lyrics. And I could have sung them to a degree, but I'd met this great guy here locally, Corey Pertile, through a mutual friend. And we'd done a couple of gigs together. So there's the voice I need on the record. And luckily I sent Josh some recordings or something. He agreed. He dug the voice, and that was it. Yeah.
Money making.
Money making? Oh, segue. Wait a minute. We get paid? Hold on a second. Wait a minute.
So both you guys have offerings on TrueFire. Andy, you have your guitar experience.
That's the subscription site for those people that don't know. Yeah.
And what's neat is that I've done a little bit of the math. Andy, I think you're doing really well, which is really great. And you've obviously been judicious.
Show me the money. No,
you've been.
Man, I can carry the one. I mean, I'm over the course of my career, I have somehow gotten by. I have no major investments or savings, but I pay we have a home, I can pay the mortgage, and I've got some gear, So in that way, I'm immensely successful. You know what I mean? I often said along the way that I didn't get in this to be rich and famous. And so I've really done a good job of that, right? Not rich or not famous, but that's you can see pitfalls, man. The folks that got a lot of money, a lot of fame, not so sure about that, folks. So I don't want to be trite or whatever the description might be, but I feel so honored and blessed just to be in the conversation that Josh respects me. That means the world to me. Doug, that you respect me. That to me is the success. And I think it's kind of driven from when I grew up playing guitar. It wasn't about like Gene Simmons would have the argument. Anybody that says they play music for any other reason but getting laid is full of crap. No, man. I wanted to be impress my older brothers. I was the youngest of four, so their opinion of me, was part of the driving force. I want to be a cool guitar player, maybe. But it's and that kind of spills over into just all the other musicians that I love and respect. To get that in return from these players, that is the success for me. And yeah, we got to figure out ways of, and thank goodness for, some of the signature gear I've been involved in and these ways of teaching, which I found I really enjoy. I didn't know that I was a good teacher until I started doing it. I thought, man, I'm pretty good at this. And I had a lot more to share than I realized that I did when I started trying to explain all these things that I just developed naturally over the years. Like Josh said, of just playing gig after gig. You just do stuff instinctually. Well, now I have to figure out ways of explaining this. And I've found that I've got ways of doing it that make sense. So with all these things, all these irons in the fire, I'm able to get by. And again, it's a huge blessing, but it's not about that, as I don't need, well, I need one more pedal, I guess. Not the guitar. So I appreciate what you're saying, but yeah, I don't know what your numbers are compared to mine, but yeah, it's again successful on levels that I couldn't have even imagined. You know what I'm saying? So Josh.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to be so diverse now to make a living as a musician.
How's your social media chops?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've had to take a step back lately because I'm one of those guys. I'm not good thinking about money.
Yeah, same here.
Up until a long time ago, my wife was the breadwinner. Up until about 10 years ago, my wife was the breadwinner in my family, and she enabled me to, figure out a way to make a living, and then eventually become the breadwinner. But it also helped me build up all these tools that I needed for the success that I have. And I had to take a step back recently and kind of just acknowledge, like, when I get frustrated that I haven't gotten here or there, like you just said, look around, like, well, I own my home, and my kids are fine. People pay me to play guitar. I'm not in danger of being on the street or anything like that. Life is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, certainly I'm always trying. I'm a hard worker, and I guess more than that, I'm bad with downtime. So I'm always trying to fill time with things to do and work to do and finding new ways to keep myself busy and have things going on, which is key in today's music business, because there'll probably never be one thing that shows up where all of a sudden I make my nut, you know what I mean? And it changes my life. That doesn't exist anymore, at least not for me. It's more about, let me add this little thing that I'm interested in and do, and that will bring this, and let me add this, and it's mostly about doing the things that are fulfilling, that then also I know keep adding to my ability to take care of my family, basically.
No, that's awesome. That's really the blessing too. Is like we're at that point where we're really choosing what we want to do, and I'm not speaking for Josh, but I've been able to say no a lot more than I used to be able to early on in my career. So truly choosing very specifically, do I want to spend time with these people? Whether it's a band, whether it's a project, I won't leave home if it's not, something that's really going to be meaningful to me, at least personally. Then obviously, yeah, again, we need to make ends meet and pay the bills and all that. But yeah, so hopefully can keep that going.
Well, yeah, none of these things on their own, like, Andy, you know better than me, but like having a signature guitar with Ibanez doesn't change your life, but it adds up every year. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All these little things that you put together eventually will change my life, to where it's like,
well, that's just
yeah, now I can continue to doing the work I really want to do, and
exactly
and the things that are important to me. I don't have to say yes to every record that I get offered to produce, or I especially don't have to do like I used to every gig as a sideman or a session guy that I used to have to do no matter what. It didn't matter what it paid or who it was with or what kind of music it was or any of those things. I used to have to say yes no matter what. That I don't have to do anymore, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. There was a lot of that in my life too, that I did not enjoy it, even if it wouldn't have been my chosen thing, because there's especially in your younger years, there's just that, oh man, this will be great. I'll do the best I can. And I always treated every gig like it was like the most important gig ever, with the preparation, with whatever, all the stuff that goes into trying to make that one gig successful, whatever it might be. And that, of course, helps you get more and more work because of that ethic, so to speak. But no, but just to have the ability to have it be situations where we're purely, inspired and enjoying the process is again. But we've stuck with this part of the reward for sticking to what we do. Not putting myself in this position, but you start hearing about players as they age, if they're still doing it, they start to be called legends. So I think it's just they're still alive and they're still doing it. And that's it. And in a way that's applicable. It's like, yeah, man. But at least that's the way I feel about my own playing, because I know that I have such a long way to go. And it's just been this wonderful, slow kind of thing. Instead of, I was never huge or famous or whatever. And rightfully so, but I think I've still got such a long way to go that who knows where I'll end up as far as that kind of notoriety or whatever it is. But that's not the goal for me. It's just that what Josh was talking about. This is our drug. I love the way he talks about it like that, because it is. We kind of feed off that. We need to grow. We need to keep doing what we do, because I can't imagine life without it. God forbid. So,
dude, and it's amazing. Also, you mentioned social media for a second, and there's a pendulum of good
here
and
we
bad.
We're here on social media,
but there's all this bad, but the good is like, dude, you never maybe were as famous as you thought you were going to be, or that this didn't blow up or whatever.
Right.
But right now, that if you release another single right now, this many thousand people would buy it the second you did it. These people that are loyal to you around the world. And maybe that, again, it doesn't change your life, but that's fucking amazing.
It is amazing because, again, just that people would care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when YouTube started blowing up, and we were all kind of freaked out, like, oh God, don't suck tonight because it's going to be. But that became our MTV. That became our radio station, because we didn't have major companies behind us, but it was down to, if people dug it, they're sharing it, and they're so a lot of my career, especially internationally, was because people were just posting videos. That video, "Cry for You," or from the Hoshino gig, whatever it might be. And I have never heard of this guy. So, and that's how I started hearing you, Josh. It was because of those things and people sharing. Man, Chad, have you heard Josh? Oh, fuck, he sounds great. And so that's it reminds me of something Elvis Costello said in one interviews. Like, you just got to really. So they were asking for advice on how to do well in the industry. Well, you just got to do what you really love, and they may discover it, years later at the bottom of the ocean floor. But if it's really great, they're gonna find it. And that's kind of what the social media and the YouTube and all that turned into be. There's a lot of stuff out there, but the stuff that really has merit and has something to offer and people resonate with, it's gonna find a way. You look at Andy McKee, right? He started making videos from his bedroom wherever he was. I don't know if it was Arkansas or Tulsa or wherever he was from, and now he's like, he's blown up and he's doing, 200 300 dates a year, whatever it might be, and he's just one of the world's great, instrumental guitar players. But we all have that opportunity now. It's not down to record labels or being in New York or LA and having the right lawyer. you just you know you just got to be great, guys. Just be great.
No, it enables you to have a direct connection with your fans and build a relationship that you couldn't have had before. Right. So yes, it's much smaller, but in some ways I mean, I don't know. I can't compare it, but I would think it's maybe more gratifying because I know everybody who buys my album or True Fire Course or guitar or something is a real fan who for some reason what I do, they really care about it. You know what I mean? And that's unbelievable to me, that someone will go into Guitar Center and buy that guitar that I helped design.
I want one. Yeah, man.
Well, I know there's people who bought it because it's a good guitar, but then I also know because I hear from them, there's people who bought it because they're supporting me and they want to have the guitar I play.
How about
that's mind blowing. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah.
It was kind of cute to see.
Really love you. Yeah.
They sure do. And anybody, I'd have to go out and find it. And I was watching the video of you just stepping forward at Royal Albert Hall. That's pretty awesome, dude. You've seen that clip, right? Or did you post that on your Facebook?
Oh, you mean recently?
Yeah. I think you posted that on your Facebook. It's just great. You're just like right there at the lip of the stage, digging in, man.
Well, it's funny, being on the road with Joe is a new thing for me. I hadn't really done the sideman thing in about 10 years. I made a decision kind of just to focus on my own thing and on production because I had done the sideman thing for a long time when I first moved here to LA. But Joe and I are doing so much work together, and he's one of my best friends. I mean, he's my brother. And so when he asked me to go on the road with him, of course, I'm going to go do that. Plus, it was just coming out of the pandemic. So it was like, well, I could use some stable work, So I don't get too excited about gigs. I've done a lot. We've all done lots of gigs in our life, played a lot of amazing places, but I never played at Royal Albert Hall until last month or whatever. So that was really exciting. We played there 2 nights, and I don't take that many solos on the gig. It's Joe's gig, but to have that moment to just step out at Albert Hall and think about Hendrix and Clapton and the Beatles and all those things, really cool. I remember it felt like 10 years ago or so, the first time I played at the Olympia in France, in Paris.
Wow.
And I felt the same way. James Brown live at the Olympia. I was like, this is the same thing. It was that kind of feeling.
I think the Beatles played there too, by the way.
Oh, Hendrix, Beatles, everybody played there.
Right
all I could think
about
was James Brown live at the Olympia. That's all I could think about. Yeah.
That is awesome. I did play Albert Hall as well, but with Olivia Newton-John. Wow. Total different side gig, but I had the same vibe. It was like, man, I knew Hendrix was here at Cream. It was one of those things. Yeah.
It's what's the difference between being a guitar player as you guys play in the studio and being the guitar player that you are live? If you could kind of differentiate between the two, what you're thinking about, maybe what you're doing, maybe your approach to the instrument. How are those two different formats nuanced for you?
I don't really differentiate them that much. The goal is the same. Obviously, if you're in the studio, it just depends on what you're recording. Now, if you're making a record, like some tracks like EWF, that's pretty. There wouldn't have been any difference between that and or if it was in front of people. We're just trying to make the best music in real time in the moment. Of course, if you're doing more production and taking that time, I think that it's just all your tools are just always at the ready in whatever the situation, whatever it calls for. And like I just mentioned, working with Olivia, I'll play differently in that group than I will my own group or Simon Phillips's group, but the intent is no different in either situation. It's always just what's going to serve this moment the best, what's going to serve the greater good of the song. So that's a studio thing, but that's also a live thing. Am I stepping on the vocal? What am I, do I need to play it all? It's the overall antenna and recognizing, what's needed or not needed, and then maybe I overdo that sometimes, but I'm always extremely sensitive of everything that's happening. It's not just about me, especially in a gig where you're backing a singer, where it's that this is their gig. What can I do to make and I was the MD in Olivia's band for that 15 years that I did it. And so it wasn't about, what about me? It was about the fan coming in to see her. What's going to be the best experience? How am I going to make this person shine like I know they're gonna? How can I improve it? And that was always the goal. And then of course, if it's my band, I'm the front, and I'm, but it's still the same thing. Was what's happening with everybody else in the band, and how are we interacting? And even if it's just volume, just such a common thing as far as stage volume. If you're on stage with other guitar players, especially, like, am I too loud? Do I need to comp behind that dude, or just lay the heck out? That was what I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but that night that we went out to do that NAMM gig, Josh, where we're all on stage and there's like the 8 guitar players, man, I took a solo and somebody was comping next to me like way louder than I was playing, and I was like,
I remember.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude, but so it's like there's, and they can be the greatest players in the world, but if they don't have that experience in that antenna, and I call it empathy, it's that what really needs to be happening right now. So I guess it's a broad answer, Doug, but it's all kind of the same. It's the same goal. Just trying to make the best music at that moment. Whatever the tool that you may have in your box or your quiver to pull out.
Yeah, it's my perspective on the studio stuff has changed slightly over the last 6-7 years as I've produced so many albums. I'm able to, in a way, step back further from the project that I used to when someone would hire me to come in and play guitar on a session, which I did, hundreds and hundreds of those here in LA. I had only one mindset then, which was making whoever hired me happy. Like, and it was doing what I thought was right, but sometimes what I thought was right was not what they want. So you learn quickly how to do the job of session guitar player. So now I'm in the studio all the time where I'm producing records. Sometimes I'm playing, sometimes I'm not. And I see it much more from that further back perspective of what do I just need to accomplish the overall goal right now, which may mean, I'm playing on this track, but I'm gonna go down playing something really simple, but that I know is going to stick to tape. Something I know is going to stay all the way to the end, that it needs to be there. So that may be my approach when I'm producing, because I'm building something. I'm building a house, from scratch. And so I approach things slightly differently now when I'm in the studio from that further away perspective, I guess.
Nice.
That was some fat wisdom right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Big time.
Stick to tape.
I will point out too, one of my favorite tracks on the Electric Truth record is Johnny T. I pointed out his great solo, but check out Josh's rhythm playing. It's just a really nice part, and just the feel of it and how it fits with the band. That stuck to the tape big time.
Thanks. Yeah. I think that's been something for me as a session player and as a guitar player. I've always tried to play nothing throwaway when the red light is on. You know what I mean? It's like, let me play something that I know is going to stay and stick. Yeah. That I don't need to replace later with something better or this or that. So that may mean simplifying on that live take. Now, if I'm sitting in the control room coming in to play guitar after everybody else has done their stuff already, and I'm adding my stuff, it's a different approach. But when I'm playing with the band all together in the studio, my approach is always, I'm going to play something right now that helps the track and sticks. Yeah.
Awesome. Andy, and we are getting close to wrapping up here because I know you guys have a Saturday, but one of the things that you do that is uncanny, that is a real gift, and is very unique, and as you guys alluded to a moment ago, not everybody really has great etiquette to those moments, is the sitting in guy. And I'm going to forget the name of that venue on Sunset Strip. I don't think it was a Billboard. No, it wasn't a Billboard Live. It was the one where the NAMM event happened that year. And you were there with Joe and Steve.
Yeah. That's one of those nights where the jam I talked about with Josh, I was first up, which I never want to be first up. But that night I was last, which is also kind of daunting because there was I think it was Herman Lee, Satriani, Steve Vai, Tony McAlpine, Paul Gilbert, Larry Mitchell, and then me, and you're like, what the heck am I gonna do?
What
But
was
you learn over the years, like, man, I'm not gonna out Joe or Steve, or it's like just play, just try to do, just do the best you can.
Well, the
But
thing that
what
was
you what,
amazing about that, and it's one of the things about the boogie gear that you really notice, the same thing at the Petrucci camps, when John jams with the other folks, the
yeah,
moment the boogie player starts playing, the
yeah,
air in the room starts moving. And I was upstairs because there's the crow's nest in that venue. It's not a venue anymore, but you could
oh,
sit
okay,
up there. And I knew, like, if there was a place that I wanted to sit, that was where I wanted to sit. And so
yeah,
Melissa and I were there. And, and so the great thing is kind of goes down the line, and then you come, and the volume coming off the stage was like an atomic bomb. But what was so great was because part of, and I'll just deconstruct that from my experience of
not when I was comping.
no, that's not what I'm saying.
I know,
But when it came time, because part of the experience is like, you're like, hey, you know what? I want to make sure I'm heard. And, you also just, the moment you came to play, the volume in the room, it was just beautiful. You could feel the sound pressure from the stage just knock you into the back of the room. It was awesome.
Interesting. I don't remember it being so different volume wise, but sometimes certain tones carry over better. Let's just say, maybe that was part of it too. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not. There may have been a volume thing, or maybe I paid the sound man a little extra money. You don't know. You don't know what happens behind the scenes. A little palm greasing. No. But sometimes certain tones are a bit bolder, and maybe I don't know. But
Those events are tough, man, because you're given 10 minutes to go out there and be you. Go be you right now with the most you can, surrounded by all these other guys who are being them. You know what I mean?
And all that you can be.
Well, dude, but I can't imagine weren't you at the NAMM, the Shawn Lane Ibanez NAMM?
I was, absolutely. That was Steve and Joe, Reb Beach, Alex Skolnick, Paul, and Shawn Lane.
When you're watching that go down, the only thought I know I would have was, I'm going to go up here and do nothing like what any of that.
Well,
you know what I mean? I would have played bluesier than ever. You know what I mean, or whatever. Yeah.
No, that was a great night for me, because up until then, my only appearance on an international stage was with Danger. So I was known as, oh, that's the guy in a hair band. But I got to play that whole night. I was put together with Simon Phillips and Gerald Veasley to be kind of the house band for all the heavy hitter Ibanez. This is 1993. It's called the Axe Attack.
That's right.
But Simon's deal was like, okay, I'll do this, but we have to play some of his fusion stuff in between each act. So, I didn't have that much time. I had charts on stage, and I'm playing this fusion stuff, and I'm backing up all these other cats and getting to hang and just be on that stage was a major thing for me. And fortunately, Ibanez, when they signed me, they're like, well, they literally said, well, we don't like your band so much, but we love your playing. So they knew that that was a short shelf life, and then I was going to have a career beyond what the MTV pop thing was, which, again, that was the fun thing for me to do. And it was a nice career starter, no doubt about it, and I had a great time. But to be on that stage that night, but yeah, my memory is that Shawn Lane just stole the show overall. I mean, everybody played great. All the guys mentioned are heroes. But Shawn was definitely a different level. And Shawn and I, not long after that, we did a week-long clinic tour together, because he was briefly an Ibanez guy. Clearly, he was there that night. So we did a clinic tour for Ibanez through Florida and Georgia, and it was just one of the most magical weeks of my life, because the guy, we laughed the whole time. We just got on as dudes, but his knowledge of all things musical, was just incredible. And kind of a genius level cat, and there's no doubt about it. He as well versed he was, with all things music, but you talk about film or whatever it might be. He was a well-read cat, let's just say. But man, we had some fun nights. There was one night we ended up in a hotel bar. He played a rickety old piano, and I had an acoustic guitar. We just sang Beatles all night, and he was one of those cats that was great to hang with. So it's very sad that he's no longer here.
Yeah.
Genius guitar player and piano player. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen,
Yes, dear.
It is literally
Yeah.
the half hour. So this seems like a logical place to kind of tie things off. Really want to thank you for your time and your insights.
Oh,
and
man. Thanks for
the
having us,
gift.
man.
Pleasure. And it's neat to hear you guys kind of deconstruct the relationship of kind of how you negotiate that. Josh, really, we haven't hung out. So thanks for that. You know, it's just like, one of the things I learned about the pandemic, I don't need people, but I love people, you know? So it's really nice to kind of get a chance to hang out with some guitar brethren and just kind of go, right, that's good for the guitar soul. Just kind of feeds that kind of that part of you. So ditto, Andy. Always a pleasure. Look forward to see you at Paul's camp.
Yeah, I'm going to see you soon. Yeah, end of July. Right on.
Yeah. So
thanks to everybody watching. If anybody's still watching, hello.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us.
If you don't have Andy's record, go get it now. Electric Truth.
Electric Truth is pretty not bad.
And you can buy signed copies of the CD. Is that correct, Andy Timmons?
I think so. If they go to andytimmons.com, you can support and get you some signed stuff. We got the T-shirts that go along with the record, all kinds of stuff. You got to check out Josh's big band record.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
Killer.
I bought it.
Record. Right on.
You know what? Hold on. Let's just take a quick second. So I bought the record. I'm kind of like, I put it on. I'm like, there's a lot of horns on there. Like that's not a guitar sort of thing. Oh, let's put a 57 and a 121 on that. So, like that's a very different.
It's a music thing.
That's big boy music. So did you arrange the horns? Was that your kind of thing? I'm just going to jump in.
I didn't arrange the horns. I wrote some of the parts, but my friend Calvin Turner, who played bass on the record, did the actual arrangement for the horn section. Because he's way better at that than I am, especially the big band style. That's like I said earlier, when I get a project idea, when it clicks and I go, I want to do this, next thing I know, it's done. So that was one of those where I wanted to do that, and Calvin kept prodding me, we should do this big band thing with your guitar kind of as the voice. So then when it became clear, like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. Next thing I knew, all the songs were written, session was booked. Let's do it. You know, so I move very quickly on things like that. But awesome. I'm very proud of it. If people haven't heard it, it's called Bird of Passage. It just came out a couple months ago, and yeah, very proud of it.
Dig it.
It's awesome. Gentlemen, thanks again. And everybody watching, appreciate it. And if you're watching on the replay, thanks for watching on the replay. All right, you guys. Thanks again.
Cheers.
And I do this every Saturday, by the way, at 9 a.m. Pacific. And usually we're talking about something having to do with guitars or gear or something. I don't know. There we go.
Hey, there we go.
But thanks so much for hanging out. Make it a